Hello and welcome to another Top Advisor Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Halloran. You know, I had the absolute privilege to re-engage with an organization that I used to refer as a business consultant a lot of business to, because I believe that their model when it comes to marketing is fundamentally unique and different and really separates you from the advisor down the street or the other advisor who are doing workshops, educational workshops, seminars, things like that. And so Carrie and I got to hang out at the Carson Excel meeting, which is where we reconnected. And I was just so excited to hear all about the new stuff. Now, here's the thing, and I want everybody to know this is just going to be an ad for FMT. It's not going to be just an ad. We're going to be talking about something that's really important. When you have a content engine, the hub, like what we do here at ProudMouth for you, you have to send people places. It can't just be your content sitting on your own. And we've talked for years about the power of in-person workshops, especially when they're educational, not rubber chicken focused. So Carrie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited to bring, and I know you guys have been around. Actually, let's stop. How long has FMT been around?
Over 20 years. FMT was established in 2001. So a different era when it came to, especially financial advisor marketing, right? What we were able to do for client acquisition.
Yeah. Well, so I started referring business to you guys in 06, 07 when I was with Carson, or what used to be called Peak. And then after I went out on my own, I would have advisors ask me all the time, Matt, I need to do something to really get in front of as many people as I can, but I don't want to sell. And can we deconstruct that component of this right away?
Yes. So as you mentioned, we are education focused client acquisition strategy for financial advisors. And there's a lot of different options when it comes to that. But what really makes our approach to this different is we focus on true, customized, long form retirement education, right? So it is not a 45-minute dinner seminar. It's 2 to 6 hours worth of retirement education, and not even going into the details of that time spent with the advisor positioned as a credible source of education, the motivated, qualified attendees in the classroom. It's an incredible formula for trust acceleration, and creates a foundation for a relationship that really can't be replicated in other ways. So I think those are kind of the keys to what really makes this educational focused client acquisition different.
In that time in the relationship. Now we do that at scale, right? With portability and convenience. But when somebody's ready to take that next step, so they've been consuming your content, they were referred. We all know that when somebody refers somebody, they're going to Google the hell out of them and look at your website and see where you are on social and do all of those things. Then all of a sudden, when they get to the point of saying, oh man, Carrie is a rock star. There's something about her I just really like, her vibe and her feeling, and she's giving me a whole bunch of great free information. Now I want to take this to the next level, which are these very intense, very organized educational systems. When an advisor comes to you and says, okay, Carrie, I really want to go ahead and do this, what are some of the things that you ask them at the beginning, or your team asks them to make sure that they're going to be the right fit? And are there exclusionary components to your system?
Yeah. So, first of all, I think the ideal advisor for our program takes a full financial planning approach, right? Oftentimes they're CFPs. They're fiduciaries. They have the fiduciary mindset, right? They're going to teach about all the concepts. They have to be able to translate that education into execution. So really making sure that that's kind of how they approach their business. And then the most important conversation we have up front is, who's their ideal client? What does that person look like? What stage of life are they in? Are there any other important criteria that we need to understand so that we can pair them with the right education? It's broad, but it is specific in a life stage aspect, right? Like, where is your target client, your ideal client in their life? And how do we pair you with the right content, the course curriculum that's going to resonate with that target audience? And then we start to dive into their local market area, because it's a very localized strategy, right? Like, if we do these nationwide, but every community is different. And so we then, once we kind of know who they're targeting, then we start to understand their local community, the environment, right? Where those educational venues that are going to resonate, times of year, other local considerations as we start to build that strategy. Because what's really interesting, our clients have been with us for a long time, right? We've been around for a long time and we have high retention rates.
Yeah.
And it's because once you start and establish that foundation, it builds over time. You actually become known as the educator in your community, right? If you're doing it on a regular basis. And going back to what you said, it becomes that place where when the investor gets to the right stage in their journey, they can be referred. They're ready to commit and motivated to attend something like one of our educational courses with their instructor.
I love the idea of being known. I mean, I have to break down a whole bunch of stuff that you said. So first off is niche focused, hyper local, but also making sure that you're really going into it with the right intention. Yes, of course, we're looking at building our business. We need to be unapologetic about that, but leading with education. And I talk about Dr. Robert Cialdini a lot on this podcast, and I would have loved to have gotten him on this show at some point. But the principle of reciprocity works incredibly well here, right? Mm-hmm. I am doing something nice, even though we're going to get into some more details on how they actually register and blah, blah, blah. But I'm doing something that's wildly more valuable than what your output is, and building that relationship. We don't really talk a lot about this on the show, but I want to talk to you about this because I know that you are a masterful communicator. How do you help with the performance component of it? Because if they get up in there and they suck, now I had professors like that, man, who I dreaded going to their classes. And then I had professors, educators who I just loved. And maybe I might not have learned as much, but man, the experience was so much better. Do you guys help with the performance component of it at all?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a few different ways that we do that, because you've hit on something that's really important. One, I don't want to overlook the idea of giving away the value, right? And a lot of value. So being an authentic educator, we talk to our advisors from the beginning, like, there is no selling. Trust the process. Give away your knowledge, educate these attendees, and it will pay off in droves. And we interview our advisors. I talk to our advisors all the time, and they say the same thing, right? Just like, trust the process, be authentic, give it away. So we start at that foundation, right? Like, do not sell yourself. Like, that will happen naturally. Focus on taking the knowledge you have, bringing in your personal stories from your experience of years helping other clients, personalize it, make the topics resonate, and then just be authentic. I will say, like, the first time's going to be hard, and it's not going to be your best. Like, I think that's another important. We have coaches. We pair our advisors with, they have a dedicated account team that helps them execute the campaign and put the strategy together, but they also help them prepare to teach the class. So making sure they get familiar with the curriculum, that they are practiced and able to come in and, hit all the high points, but also know that it's going to get better over time. I've had so many conversations with folks that have done this for decades. I mean, since the beginning, like, probably people you've referred, right, in 2006. And they all say the same thing. Like, the first few classes are hard, but you stick with it because you just get better and better. And then all of a sudden it becomes something many say they enjoy, they look forward to. Like, they go to these classes and they get re-energized. So it's really inspiring, and it's a process that we work together with our clients or the advisors we partner with to get them there, and know that it's going to take some work, but it will pay off in the end.
Yeah. Podcasting is the same way, sister, right? Your first few episodes, you're just not going to be great. I love the fact that, we kept everything that we've done with all of the Top Advisor Marketing podcasts. Kirk and I were not great when we first started, and we have progressively gotten better. And the super fun thing about it is when you're in that presentation mode and you're really in that flow state, which I know is where your advisors get to after they've done, a few of these and gotten them in the can, you actually learn a lot about yourself. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a presentation, I've been doing a speech, or I'm interviewing somebody like you, and you'll say something or I'll say something, and I'm like, damn, that was good, right? But it's that performance filter that a lot of people don't understand the true value of that. All right, so let's talk logistics a little bit more. So I've got a content marketing engine like we have here at ProudMouth. I'm driving lots of content. It's all personalized content. And then my CTA is going to drive to you as if you're ready to take the next step, we have this. Can you walk our audience through what that handoff would look like? And then what you guys actually do and deconstruct that so that our advising audience understands really what you do.
So what we have historically said is we're turnkey, which I kind of love and hate that that phrase as a marketer. I feel like there's a better way, but it's the truth, right? Like we provide all the components necessary to bring someone interested in attending one of your classes as an advisor through that funnel, convert, register, etc. So so when we work with our advisors to ideally plan out their annual calendar of classes, right? It varies. It depends on a lot of different factors and it varies by advisor, but as much as we can, we plan out as far in advance because the more opportunities you have to capture those folks that are ready to take that next step, the better, right? So we build out essentially that ecosystem, the destinations that talk about the classes, the place, the opportunity for them to click to register. We handle all of those registrations. So we actually have a full service, registration team. So you don't have to handle any of those, like, what room is it in? How do I get there? Can you take a check? Because that still happens.
Wow.
I know every year I'm like, do we really need to mail in checks? And sure enough, we do. Maybe one day. Anyway, so full service registration, right? So we handle all of that customer service aspect, making sure people have the information they need to know about the class. And we're working obviously with the advisor and oftentimes their team to make sure that is all set up and ready to go. And then let's say, for example, the dates don't work, they're not ready to convert. We're also working with the advisor then to re-nurture and make sure that we can get that audience into the next class or that, we know they're interested. And so we continue to reach out to them. We still do a lot of traditional marketing tactics as well. Direct mail is still very core to what we do. And I'm sure a lot of advisors are still using that for their dinner seminars and right. Yeah. But we still leverage that because that really conveys the long form, the value of that education. We send out essentially a syllabus like you would have gotten for your college classes, right? We leverage digital to, again, retarget those folks that maybe it didn't work this time. But we're trying to help provide all of the marketing and then the conversion aspects necessary for that advisor to get those people in the class so that they can show up and be the instructor. And that's what they're focused on, right? And then converting post-class.
So one of the things that I had gone to a competitor of yours. They have a university for their presenters, and they were really, really surprised when I said that at the end of the session that you should have 3 different calls to action. The first one is, we offer a free in-person, right? So there's a person in the back of the room, or I will do right here to schedule time in the office where we'll meet face-to-face. The second one is, some people don't feel super comfortable with that. They'd like to meet virtually because then they don't feel pressure or whatever. Listen, we offer a free 15-minute, I can answer any of the questions that you might have had from the workshop. And then the third one is, some of you might not be ready to take your next steps now. And our commitment to education is so great that we would love for all of you to grab your phones right now and subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media, because not only have you spent these 2 to 6 hours with us here, but we want to continue this level of education so that when you are ready, we're going to be the people that you call. What do you think about that?
I think that fits squarely in what we actually work with our advisors to do. So you're absolutely right. First and foremost, the way we talk about the appointment after the class is it's really the lab session. So think about 6 hours of education. You're covering concepts that are relevant to this person's life. They inevitably have personal scenarios they want to talk about. You can't do that in front of, 40 strangers, or maybe you just shouldn't do that. Let's say that.
Sure.
I'm sure plenty of people would. And so what they really are talking about throughout the course is the optional lab session at the end. Like, come in, you get another hour with us. You aren't in front of 40 strangers, so we can talk about any of these personal scenarios. We can look at, specific things that you're concerned about in your financial plan. What I love is that some of the advisors that we work with have really customized this lab session in a way that I think is powerful. So, they might do like the retirement analysis section of a financial plan. And that is so compelling to me, especially if they're like showing an example during the class. Here's what we could do in this third session, right? So that's the primary focus. And the reason being is you got to capitalize on all this trust that you've built. And historically, we see 80% of attendees taking that one-on-one meeting. I know it's crazy. And this is not just like advisors reporting this back to us, but we have surveyed our attendees for years, and it's self-reported. 80% meet with the instructor, right? So that's the primary focus, but you're absolutely right. They might take that meeting and not be ready. So it's really important that the advisor has some sort of a nurture program set up, that newsletter, the podcast, whatever can, continuing education through content that they have, that these folks get, put into that. If they don't, because many people don't still today in 2024 have these, we do have some options to get them started, right? Like some basic outreach you can do post class if you don't have other funnels to drop them into. And that's really, where we focus. And then something I do want to add is, anecdotally, like we measure with our advisors, we want to know what happens like in the first 90 days, 6 months after the class, but inevitably these people come back years later, right? If they aren't ready, something will happen in their lives. Like it's often about a life event, right? And they will have taken the class and never forgotten it, still have the workbook and be like, okay, now I'm ready, right? So we have an advisor in Iowa. I love, he says he's sowing the seeds. Like it's farming. Yeah. I'm sowing the seeds, right? I love that analogy because some grow right away and some lay dormant for a little while and come back.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's all, I think having multiple options to meet the attendee or the investor where they are is the most important thing, right? We're not going to force, this is not push, right? This is like the intrinsic value is built and we let them come to us when they're ready. The great thing about our program is we've screened them before they even get to the class. So they're much more ready and motivated than a general seminar audience might be.
So 80%, that's insane. But I love the fact that even if they do take that meeting, some of those people will trickle in later. And so we believe that sales has fundamentally changed. I think COVID accelerated it, but people don't want to be sold to anymore. They want to be given the opportunity and a comfortable environment to buy from you. And that's one of the things that I love about your system is you're building that relationship with them. There's a bunch of exit points, but the most important thing is that commitment to stay for all of the courses. So and this might be a mean question. It wasn't intended to be, but how many people stay for the whole freaking thing?
The majority. Wow. I actually, like, I've gotten a couple of stats from advisors, but like the drop off from class 1 to class 2 is very small. So maybe let me tell you a little bit about how we target and get the folks there, because I think that is a big reason why we have high retention. And then oftentimes if they do drop off, it's not, I didn't like you, I don't want this information, something happened, like life happens, right? And they've established some sort of connection with that person. So the way that we target for these classes is not just, do they have this much money? Are they this old, right? It's not just about segmentation. That is a big piece of it. And we've refined that over the years. I think we've kept a lot of what we do the same, because this like traditional form of educating has worked. But where we've been able to modernize is 15 years of first party attendee data built into models that start to predict, in a more predictive fashion, who's most likely to attend, right? So we are filtering for income producing assets or income or net worth, but we are also using all those other data points at our disposal to sort of model out and predict those most likely to register. So we get the quality, but then we charge for the class. It is a commitment. It's not huge. It can vary. On average, I think we charge like $50 a class, $49. So it's not going to break the bank, but you've spent money to do this thing, right? And going into it, it's a 2-night, 6-hour time commitment, right? So there's that really important aspect of it. I mean, I think like it seems arbitrary, but I actually think it's critical to the engaged audience that's in that room, to get them to make sure, to come to the first class, the second class, and then by the end, if frankly the advisor is doing everything right, have them want to continue to meet and talk with that person. So I think how we target from the beginning is really important. Another reason why we use direct mail, because it's a really great one-to-one way to do that. It's not sort of guessing, you are knowing in a named capacity. So don't sell, focus on the education, start with the qualified, motivated people up front, and we see really high conversion rates from first class to second class. And then, like I said, 80% of them are meeting with that advisor after the class on average, right?
One of the biggest issues that we found in Kirk, my partner here, the co-founder of ProudMouth, and I have really been deconstructing how advisors can have microtransactions, which are buying signals, so that, because that's how sales works, right? Going in and saying, hey, I want you to give me all of your life savings. That's a pretty big ask, man. And advisors are fearless to do it. But that's one of the other things that I like about this is it is not free. It is not at a Ruth Chris, right? It is a commitment that they're making to that advisor, and it is a small transaction, because we know in the world of sales and marketing, if I get you to buy from me once, the probability of you buying something from me again, even if it's a much higher price point, is exponentially greater. And I absolutely love that. Now, you aren't prepared for this question, because I didn't think about it until something you just said. So this is on me. I'm sorry. I told you I had prepared like hell for this, which I did. But the workbook specifically, we hear from advisors all the time, hey, Matt, I need more content. Right? So can advisors who have purchased your system use some of the stuff that they do in the classroom to create content for social media?
So I will say just yes. But not obviously like they're going to derive from the content. So we give our advisors access to a ton. I'm in the middle of updating this stuff, Matt. It's like, it's a ton of content. 2 workbooks for the attendees. They get the, several hundred slide deck to go with it. We give them all of this content so that they have everything and can customize it. So it covers everything. There might be things you want to go deep into because that's what you really focus on with your clients. Maybe you have a CPA on staff and you want to really talk about tax planning, right? Like we give them this ability to customize it and then encourage them to continue to educate after. So while I wouldn't want, and I don't think anybody would recommend just taking a PowerPoint slide and using it as a social media post.
No.
Absolutely. Like, use these concepts. And it's something, frankly, like, as leading the marketing and product for this company, I want us to do more of. I want us to leverage all of this content that we make for the advisors and make smaller pieces, more kind of snackable content that they can use. So I hope that we're able to continue to do that. We've been investing in more on-staff content resources. And so hopefully in the, coming months and years, we're able to do even more of that on behalf of the advisor. So it's a little bit more plug and play, because we definitely don't want it to stop in that classroom.
Carrie, I've done this so many times, but they get done with the class, or maybe there's a break, which there probably should be at 3 hours long, and then they go out and they just grab their phone and they say, hey, I'm teaching a class and here's a question that one of the attendees had, and save the video. It can be 3 minutes. It can be 30 seconds. It can be 90, whatever. But content begets content. And especially when it's something very extemporaneous and engaging like that, can be unbelievably powerful. Or even the next day when they're sitting down at their desk and they're looking at their $9 million camera and their $5 million microphone, and they say, hey, look, I don't know if you all know this. We have a commitment to teach, our community more how to make wise financial decisions. And here are 3 things that I learned from the session last night, the course last night.
Yeah.
That's the sort of stuff. Yeah. What's that?
I might have to steal that. I love that idea. Like, we encourage them to, in advance of the class, survey the attendees, get the questions that they already have brewing, so you can sort of customize and make sure you address it. But to take that idea, that authentic, organic conversation, and plug it into your other channels, I think that's an awesome idea. I love that. And there's so much more we can do. Like I said, we have a huge opportunity to create more ways that our advisors can use all of this educational content. The ideas just keep flowing. I love it.
Yeah. Well, steal away, sister, because that's what we're all about with this show. We've done hundreds and hundreds of episodes of the show, and the ultimate goal is to help advisors find ways, one, to rise above the noise and be their own loud, right? I think this is such a powerful way to really rise above the noise. There are a lot of people, in fact, so my mom's 82. She lives in a retirement community, and Carrie, she probably gets 5 a day from advisors, and it's not a big city. I do not live in a big town, who are all trying to get her to go to the rubber chicken stuff. Right. And full disclosure, I had a client who flew me in to watch their Ruth Chris dinner, and give them feedback on the performance component of it. Well, luckily they were very, very, very good. And they had a pretty high closing ratio, but they didn't have a high engagement ratio, right? And I've said this for many, many years. You do a workshop, not yours necessarily, because it's such a different structure, but you get 30 buying units in the room, 10 people decide to schedule an appointment, 2 decide to do business with you. That can be wildly lucrative, but there's 28 people who you have to maintain a relationship with over time. And we believe that the content strategy is really the key. All right. As we wrap up today, what should I have asked you that I didn't?
Oh, I love this question. Oh my goodness. You're just a perfect interviewer that asks all the right questions.
You know what? Listen,
you haven't stumped me yet.
That's recorded, sister. You don't answer the question. I got that. That is official. It's in the books. I can hang my hat up now. I'm done. Thank you very much. Okay. So if somebody wants to know more about FMT, how do they do it? Where do they go? What do they do?
Yes. So I would head to fmtsolutions.com or FMT Solutions on LinkedIn. It's a great place to start. You can also email us at admissions@fmtsolutions.com, and just start to explore, right? We call it a demo, but really it's like talking about your marketing strategy. Leverage us as marketers. We'll help figure out how this can be, a piece of your marketing strategy, and what we believe and have seen over the years to be a significant piece of the strategy. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, we'll make sure that we have links in the show notes. Please make sure that you're following Carrie and also FMT on social. They do put out some pretty darn tootin' good stuff. And then go to the website, fmtsolutions.com. And as I wrap up today, just a couple of things. Number one, remember that marketing is an actual machine, and you have to have the engine get worn in, right? You have to break it in, and then you can start finding out what your limits are. So many of you are just literally throwing money at a wall and saying marketing idea, marketing idea, marketing idea, but you're not letting it actually settle in. Going back to the planting seeds analogy, Carrie, that you used earlier with your advisor in Iowa, that is good marketing. We call it slow marketing here at ProudMouth. It is consistently building your momentum over time. And then what happens is then you achieve escape velocity, and then your marketing becomes very easy. It becomes weightless. You start seeing content everywhere, and it just makes it so much easier for you to engage your ideal audience. But more importantly, when you have the content hub, which is what we do here at ProudMouth, you have to send them somewhere. And we think FMT is a great place to send people to deepen the relationship, continuing the educational journey, because we have the perfect content formula here: education, entertainment, storytelling, call to action. That's part of the perfect content, and education is huge. And if you can drive them there, get that micro commitment, the major commitment is going to come even better. So I want to thank everybody for being here. For Carrie and everybody at FMT Solutions, this is Matt Halloran, and we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.